we'll take our treasure and go. Before the road had hit the water, bankers came but never corner. All in sync, we hid and fought, and then they began to know. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. No chain was cut, no block was freed, and the captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the pirate's creed and took those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. For fear days to be no more, the crypto sank, then rose once more. Coins were lost, yet we do endure, and still that system did go. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the chain's not cut, and the block's not gone. We pirates make our regular crew, we're with the captain, the crew, and one day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go.
What's up, everyone? Can everybody hear me? Cool.
Yep.
Alrighty. Welcome, everyone, to the first 2023 meeting. As usual, I'm your host, Straith, and hopefully everyone had a good holiday if they celebrated, or if not, had some good time off and had a enjoyable experience for the past couple weeks. Apologies for last week, as I was still coming back from vacation and my whole schedule is kind of screwed. So that's why we shifted this meeting to this week, which is actually kind of perfect timing, as you'll see why. So first things first, want to discuss an announcement that was made yesterday. And with me, I have a special guest today, Paul from Edge. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully everyone can hear me just fine. Happy to be here again after, over a year since we first chatted about Pirate Chain and Edge. So thanks for having me again.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's been a long time coming.
That it has been.
But yeah, so as everyone knows, or probably everyone knows, Pirate Chain was just integrated into Edge and announced as of yesterday. So Pirate Chain ourselves, we are taking the time today to actually kind of dig into the integration, what you'll be able to do with it, and what it took to get here. So, Paul, you want to chat about what basically the requirements were before we were even thought about being integrated?
Yeah, so I know we've been in discussions for quite some time, and actually, in a way, the requirements were all there. It was, a matter of providing a lot of the technical support, the SDK functionality and capabilities. There was a grant provided over to Edge as well, but the key thing was that Pirate was in demand by community. Number two, already supported by some of our exchange partners, of which we now have support inside of Edge, not just to be able to send and receive Pirate Chain, but actually to be able to buy and sell it from many other cryptos. So crypto to crypto swaps do work into Pirate Chain inside of Edge, live today. But I'd say to kind of give you a quick overview and recap of really the entire journey, it was admittedly a lot of back and forth between our teams, and in this kind of global world of people working on projects and around different time zones, it can be a bit of a challenge, admittedly. There was a lot of what I call passing the baton in this long run of getting integration of Pirate Chain into Edge. And number one thing I want to share with people is that, privacy coins are generally hard. they're not easy things to do, both on a protocol level, on a mathematical level, and at the application level where we sit over at Edge. And so this is a project that has been actively worked on now for well over a year on both sides, both on the Pirate Chain core dev team, as well as from Edge's team. And there's times where we have to really sprint hard to get something working, and suddenly, oh, we hit a bit of a roadblock. We have to pass over the fence. Pirate Chain team goes and sprints and gets that resolved, but then they hit a roadblock on us. So it's been a great collaboration. You can see the two teams. I got a firsthand chance to see the two teams really come together to put this over the finish line. But it was a long struggle road because, once again, we're in crypto. We're, not to create another pun, but bleeding edge, and we're treading on new ground, especially in the privacy world with new and admittedly rarely used SDKs. I don't believe there is another application out there that is using the Pirate Chain SDK today, other than Edge. It was a platform that was built side by side with our ability to integrate that SDK. So long road. We're happy to be here, and the reason why we go through a lot of this challenge is because we do care a ton about privacy. I think we have now more privacy protocols implemented than any other app. And what I love about Pirate Chain is it's privacy by default, and I think that's a key thing that people kind of underestimate the value of. So I thank the Pirate Chain team and community for having even built, the protocol, and then of course helping with getting this integration live.
Oh, absolutely. And, just watching the collaboration between the two teams is just awesome to see. Just because, not just because, watching teams work together is great, but just the sheer amount of time that it took to actually get everything to the point to where it is today. It's just by scrolling back through messages on Telegram, dates back, at least for me, dated back to April of last year. I think it was April.
Right.
But it's just crazy to see how long, it actually takes for something to be properly integrated by two very experienced teams, and for teams that don't even know each other to work that well with each other. So it was really, really, really awesome to see this stuff. And now, as far as integrating into Edge, what are you able to do with that?
Got it. So in the current live integration in Edge, first of all, people can now create Pirate Chain wallet or even multiple Pirate Chain wallets. All right. So Edge, as a recap, is somewhat of like a key manager. Unlike a lot of wallets where you manage your keys and you get kind of one master key that generates all of your different assets. In Edge, you can import keys, you can export keys, and they're all encrypted into a single self-custody encrypted private kind of account. And that account can hold one Pirate Chain key, multiple Pirate Chain keys, Bitcoin key, Ethereum key, and whatnot. So if you're already using Pirate Chain through another app, as long as it uses kind of a 1224 word standard mnemonic, you can import that into Edge and continue using those same funds. Or you could, create a new wallet inside of Edge. As well, because we kind of define our application through its exchange support, you can now buy and sell Pirate Chain. And I think that's a key thing that I don't believe I've seen in other Pirate Chain wallets. So you'll be able to convert Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, many different other assets into and out of Pirate Chain so that you can, of course, hold what assets you need to at the time you need to be using them. And then you can, of course, spend Pirate Chain. I posted a video of that yesterday. We have a snack bar here at Edge where everything's subsidized, and really it's inviting our team to eat our own dog food, as we call it in society, which is using our own app. And not just using our own app. Part of the dog food of working in the crypto community are the cryptocurrency protocols themselves. Like, actually use them for what they were built for, which is actual means of commerce and trade. So we have a little snack bar, everything's $1, and people can spend all the different assets that are supported in Edge. And Pirate Chain just got added to that list, and we can confirm it does function and work well for actual commerce. So those are the base things that you can do with it. We do support through our exchange partners the support for the memo field as well on Pirate Chain. I have to double check whether or not those memo fields show up when people send memos. That might be something for me to still have to test, but we can send that to exchange partners that require it, because some of them do, in order to be able to send and receive funds from exchanges.
Now, one thing that you brought up about eating your own dog food, the the interesting thing about Pirate Chain that I just want to mention to everybody is I've said this before in previous meetings is that you'll notice that we don't focus on trying to build oh well, you can vote using Pirate Chain, you can do this using Pirate Chain because Pirate Chain is first and foremost a currency. So the one thing that we truly focus on is gaining merchant adoption, where you can actually use Pirate Chain for the various products and services that you want to purchase. So hearing that you guys do the same thing with your own app, you have people that at your company that you use it to buy various things from your own place. It's fantastic to hear. So
yeah, I think that's absolutely key. Got to actually use the technology, and this is the first time where technology equals money, and so the ability to use it is very far less friction than it used to be. And I'm excited to see the different ways that Pirate Chain can be used within kind of the world as a whole. People accepting Pirate Chain, wanting to pay with Pirate Chain. I'm all about like exit fiat in the best way possible, and definitely privacy protocols to me are the much preferred way of being able to conduct commerce.
Oh, absolutely. And the thing that we have built is called the Armada, ARRRMADA, and you go to armada.com, and it's basically it's like a business directory filled with over 100 and something different stores and services that accept Pirate Chain as a payment. So that's one thing that we've been heavily focusing on over the years. Huge shout out to Seiko and Wookie and everybody else, Cax and everyone that has been, helping out with all that stuff. But maybe is there like I gotta double check the app again. I haven't updated it yet, but maybe there's a way to actually link the Armada to Pirate Chain's page or something like that on the app so that people know, hey, you can use this currency in all these different places. Yeah.
There isn't currently a way of doing that. It's something that we can consider. We are looking at adding per asset information, much like you'd see on like a coin market cap, where we can have news, info, general stats on each asset. And definitely being able to link out to where you can use your Pirate Chain would be a great and perfect type of kind of info nugget that we'd like to offer for Pirate Chain for people to kind of tap into that asset. So it's definitely something that we can add, and I think we would like to, once we have that general framework of being able to add info, videos, blog articles, news articles about assets. Then I think that one's coming in. That'll be coming in hot, and it's actually an interesting reminder for those that are new to Edge. The company actually dates back to 2014 when we had an original app called Airbits. And the first incarnation of that app before it became a Bitcoin wallet was actually a business directory. We wanted people to use Bitcoin and spend it at different merchants around the world. And at the time, really, Bitcoin was 95+% of the market cap of all of crypto. But of course, that didn't quite pan out for multiple reasons that I won't dive into today. But still, it's in our heart and minds at Edge is while our app right now is more defined as an exchange platform, buy, sell, trade, but self-custody, in our heart and mind, we want that to eventually migrate and then the industry to migrate into utilizing those cryptos that right now we're speculating on. Like speculation is key. We need that right now to increase value. But then after that, we need to be able to hold that value through a base level of utility and actual usage of the currency. So we've been asked a few times to bring back the business director, but I think it's better left in the hands of projects like Pirate Chain and the Armada. But happy to support those efforts.
So just so everyone fully understands, what sets Edge apart from the other, aside from say the exchange function, but what sets Edge apart from all the other mobile wallets and things like that?
Yeah, so definitely the biggest differentiator is the key management. We want to deliver self-custody for everyone, not just the people that are, your anarcho-capitalists, like, libertarians that really will jump through the hoops of dealing with self-custody, or the kind of technical early adopters. We want to deliver for everyone, even the people that don't care and people that might not even know they're getting self-custody. And so in Edge, if you are a first-time user of Edge, you'll notice that you're never asked to write down 12 or 24 word mnemonics. Instead, those keys, those are still generated. You can extract them if you wanted to. They are standard. We don't go use weird MPC threshold signature schemes to abstract out that 24-word seed. You can still import one and export one from Edge, but they are all of the wallets you create in Edge are individual 12, 24-word mnemonics or master private keys, and those are then all encrypted in a bundle. And that encrypted bundle is automatically backed up for you. So if you lose your phone, you just log in on a new phone. As well, a lot of people say, well, I've still got to deal with credentials and passwords. True, but unlike a private key is like the world's worst and most difficult to manage password. Why? It's super long, which is great because it's strong and it's unique. But also, if you accidentally put it somewhere where someone sees it, your money's gone, right? There's no way to additionally protect that master private key. With Edge, all the credentials that you create are not the master private key themselves. They are an encryption key and an authentication key with Edge's backend. So even if someone saw your password or guessed it, or you reused it with another service, they're still locked out because all accounts are automatically kind of pseudo two-factor protected, right? We protect all accounts with a light form of two-factor based on your IP addresses. But then you can also enable full two-factor at a touch of a button. Touch one button in the settings and full two-factor is enabled. You don't need to go and use Google Authenticator or provide your email or phone number because we don't collect any personal info. That's another key thing about Edge is to just use the basic send and receive functionality of an asset. No personal info is required. If you do buy and sell from fiat, you may need to provide personal information. That's not to Edge. That's not associated with your Edge account. That's purely a separate account with an exchange partner, and all they see is the transaction you made and the public addresses you provided for that transaction. They don't see anything else about your Edge account. They don't know your username. They don't know any of your other wallets, what wallets you've created, which ones you haven't. So it really segments privacy between what you're doing inside of Edge versus what you're doing, integrated in Edge, but separately through an exchange partner. So key management and everything that comes with that form of key management is one of our biggest differentiators. And hopefully you guys can appreciate that. Definitely send us any feedback as you give it a try.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention is that when I just mentioned that I don't have it updated yet, so I just updated the app and now it's almost done syncing the Pirate wallet. So that's pretty awesome.
Cool. And that is one of the challenges with privacy protocols. I want to give people both the good and, kind of the heads up on some of our integrations. With privacy protocols like Pirate Chain, it can take a while to kind of sync a wallet. And the amount of time it takes is dependent on how long it has been since you last launched Edge. To give you a little bit of a dive into the protocol and what you need to do client side meaning on your device, not at a full node level. Every time you launch the app has to download what are called compact blocks from the blockchain. And those compact blocks, while they're not the full size of a full block, they are still a bit of data that is per block. And then on your phone, a whole bunch of like zk magic cryptography has to happen to see whether or not you have any transactions in that block. And if so, then grab the transactions off the blockchain. And realize that can take a while. Say you haven't launched Edge in a week. Now you have a week's worth of compact blocks that you have to download and cryptographically verify. And that is a costly process. It's something that I know as Pirate Chain grows, and I'm confident Pirate Chain will grow, that'll need to get optimized and made faster. Because as the block sizes increase, the cost to download those compact blocks and validate them and check for transactions will also increase. And it can easily get to the point of unusability. Right now, it's pretty usable, but as a tech team, that's something that's going to have to get optimized, especially in the Pirate Chain SDK, as usage of the chain starts to go up. So just a heads up to the community about that. But right now, it's pretty fast to sync to go ahead and use it. Go and buy, sell, trade, and spend Pirate Chain. Use the currency as it was meant for.
Yeah, and that's one thing about integrating with large platforms such as Edge, is that it spurs new development. You know what I mean? Because this is something that we probably may not have seen or foreseen had we not integrated with you guys and continued going on the path that we're currently going on. So things like that, where figuring out ways to increase the speed in which blocks are basically received by you guys to then search for transactions for individual wallets.
Mhm.
Developments like that, you know, sometimes don't come without integrating with other large partners. So it's just something cool to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this SDK that your team built for integration into mobile apps like Edge is one that now can be used. And one thing, at the detriment even of our own company, I'd like to help promote to any other developers that are looking at integrating Pirate Chain. We now host the React Native Pirate Chain library on our GitHub and Edge, and that's open source. And that's another thing I want to say is a differentiator of Edge. Edge is open source. How many multi-asset platforms can you find that are still open source? They're out there, but there's very few. And I don't think there's any that support Pirate Chain. So as part of being open source, you can use the tooling that we've built. And one of those pieces of tooling that we built is a wrapper around the core Pirate Chain SDK that then becomes much more mobile friendly for React Native developers. So that's a technical term. I'm not sure how many of you out there are developers, but if you've heard of React Native and you're building mobile apps with it, you now have an SDK available to you to build something on top of Pirate Chain. And as well, Edge itself is a platform. If you're looking at building a general cryptocurrency app, especially if you want it to be multi-asset with easy key management, you don't have to deal with communicating to the low-level SDKs like the React Native Pirate Chain SDK. You can use the Edge SDK at a much higher level that allows you to have simple calls like, hey, create me a wallet. What's my balance? Send money. And that now has support for Pirate Chain because of our integration. So by integrating Pirate Chain into Edge, not only does Pirate Chain get support in the actual consumer launch production app of Edge, it now gets support inside of the platform that other developers can use to build simplified, mobile cryptocurrency apps on. So I invite other developers to give it a try. Maybe we could do kind of a little hackathon with the Pirate Chain community and whatnot and see what can get built in the ecosystem. Love to see what could come out of this effort that we've been putting on for the past year outside of just Edge, but also other apps.
Absolutely. Now, just out of curiosity, and I could probably guess most of the reasons probably, but just for everybody else, what went into the decision to make the wallet open source?
Fundamentally, it's part of our ideology. Like, I am not a fan of patents even, right? So I've been surrounded by companies. I worked at NVIDIA for years, almost a decade, and I actually have a patent to my name. And I remember going through a month-long process with a very, very expensive lawyer that NVIDIA paid to file this patent. And at the end of the day, I go, this is just like common sense. Like, it's just it's like just the stuff that you would do when you're building a product. It was like an optimization to save energy, and it just felt so common sense. And to spend what probably amounted to hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not over $1 million, to file this patent to protect a company against another person utilizing this idea. This just seemed silly. And I was inspired a long time ago by one of my co-founders who's a skateboarder. And he turned me on to a name, Rodney Mullen, I believe is his name. For any of you skateboarders out there, I could be botching his name because I'm not a skateboarder. Dre, you a skateboarder? Used
to, but I know the name.
Rodney, right? So Rodney is like a godfather of early skateboard moves and tricks from back, I think, as early as the 80s or the 70s. And Rodney hurt himself skateboarding, and that was his life. And guess what he got into when he was hurt? He got into open source software development, of all the weirdest things, right? You'd think, well, as a skateboarder getting into open source software development, Dre, you should look up this story. This is a fascinating story. And he started, and people ask him, like, what got you into open source? He goes, you know something? There's a close tie between skateboarding and open source. What the hell could that possibly be? Well, for every skateboarder that creates a new trick, there's other skateboarders that build on top of it. And you can think of Rodney as being kind of like the Linux of skateboarders. He built a base foundation that so many other projects or other skateboarders built on top of. And it's not like a skateboarder goes and takes a move and patents it and says, no, you can't use my move. We want just the entire humanity to build on top of the shoulders of giants. And we understand that we're doing that. We're building on top of existing open source projects, including, the Pirate Chain SDK. And we want to make sure other people can build on top of that as well. And so it is definitely a part of our ideology. And also, if you think about it, it's kind of a necessity for the transparency needed to ensure security. All cryptography that is widely deployed is using open source libraries. There's almost nobody using closed source cryptography in this world. And we think that a cryptocurrency wallet is an extension of cryptography. It employs so much cryptography in it, the signing of transactions, and in our case, the encryption of the keys, the hashing algorithms necessary to generate public addresses. All of that should be open source, auditable, transparent. And that's why we built open source. And maybe people will think, well, then there's just, you lose business model. And that's true. That is a challenge. Like, we can't claim patents. We can't claim all as like proprietary, this and that, which could protect our company to make it more valuable. But I didn't get into this industry to, be a monopoly that hoarded technology to ourselves. I got in this industry because I felt really passionate about Bitcoin, crypto, passionate about autonomy and privacy. And fundamentally, I think this is the way to achieve that. And if we're able to build a successful business, because a lot of people love our app, great. If it ends up being pure open source for the community to build on, then unfortunate for us, but at least fortunate for humanity as a whole. So hopefully that kind of gives an understanding of open source, its roots and edge, and why we do it today.
Oh, absolutely. And the other interesting thing too is that while, having it open source, maybe it could be a detriment in terms of, somebody else using that to build a different product that, people from your product switch over to. However, the key thing is that I think that personally it motivates a company that has open source software to just continue building and continue to do groundbreaking things. Because if you continue to do that, you won't lose any business. You'll just continually gain business. Because why would you switch to somebody else that just basically copies a code and literally makes something very basic and doesn't do anything with it? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely.
So I think that also spurs development because it forces that company to actually continue to be the best.
Correct. You have to innovate, and you can't just sit on your laurels.
Yep.
And if there's anything that I have witnessed in big tech, it's companies that just sit on their laurels and sit on the patents that they filed because, those last 20 years and then don't do much. And then a lot of those companies end up becoming nothing more than an entire building full of lawyers. And that's not what I want to ever become. And I'm surrounded by that. I'm based in San Diego, and the biggest tech company here is Qualcomm, which for many people, it's the chip inside their phone that they don't even know is in there. And it's not like a household name. But Qualcomm, to many, has become one of those type of companies. You walk in the front door, and they just, with pride, like show all of the patents in plaques sitting in their hallway. And I go in there and I just want to throw up. All right, I'm like, this is not what I would ever want to be a part of. I want to be a part of something that's innovative and keeps having to innovate on top of itself year after year after year, and shares those innovations with the world. And
actually has to compete too.
And you have to compete. You have to compete against yourself, right? Because what you built, someone else can use. You got to compete against that. And immediately, if you're doing that, it's much harder for someone to just take your code and keep building on top of it because they don't have any of the knowledge that it took to build it. So they have to learn it first, right? And it might not be in their tech stack. It might not be in their area of expertise. So as long as that company doesn't sit on its laurels, it will be able to continue innovating. And people can borrow ideas, but by and large wouldn't be able to just simply copy paste.
And sometimes you actually get some amazing developers that way as well, because sometimes developers actually look at the code and be like, this is where I want to be, because they're actually doing some really awesome stuff. And I feel like I can help improve upon this too.
Absolutely. You can actually find developers contributing to your open source code, and that becomes one of your recruiting methods. You know, who are the contributors? What was the quality of their contribution? And for any of you out there that are up and coming developers and are looking for ways to break into the crypto world, one of the beauties of the crypto industry is that there are a ton of open source projects that you can contribute to. Think of the life before crypto. You had like Linux and a handful of open source projects that spanned a little bit here and there between many different industries, maybe a database or whatnot, but you didn't have a whole lot of consumer apps that were like really open source or stuff that you touched on a day-to-day basis. Now there's a plethora of them and protocol level things that you could work on. And nothing makes developers, I don't say nothing, but one of the biggest things that a developer is happy about is being able to show pride in their work, which, a GitHub profile is kind of a resume. It shows everything you've worked on. But if everything's private, closed source, your GitHub profile is blank. I've interviewed developers that have worked on amazing stuff, but it's all been closed source. They have nothing to show for it. They can't share anything that they've done. Whereas every line of code that someone's written inside of Edge is for public display. You can go to everyone can go to my GitHub page or go to edge.app, right? So github.com/edgeapp. You go there and you'll see a lot of the people that worked on Edge. You'll see all their contributions, what we call all the little green checkboxes. The little green boxes show when people made a contribution to whatever project. And our developers accounts look loaded. Like they look like GitHub wizards because they've just contributed over and over to open source, which is what Edge is.
Yeah, and that's basically why crypto, one of the reasons why crypto was built is so that people can actually help build the entire industry, having that open source. So
exactly. My co-founder has actually contributed to open source. It was one of the big driving factors in wanting to work on Edge. And I don't think he would be here if we were closed source. We decided closed source tomorrow, he'd probably say, nope, this is not for me. Like we are both so aligned in wanting to build open source code and be transparent and contribute and see people using our open source code that we wouldn't be in this if it were any other way. So definitely invite people to check it out, especially the developers that want to tinker and contribute back. It's a great way to really build your resume. So definitely push that forward.
Yeah, the funny thing is, in my mind, if you close source something, you'll have developers leave. But if you open source something, you'll have lawyers leave.
Yeah, exactly. And, if I had to pick what I'd rather pay for, it would definitely be the developers. No offense to any lawyers out there. No offense to any lawyers out there. I've had some great lawyer friends, but I'd for sure rather have my money spent on devs. And fortunately, that's one of the best things about being in kind of the self-custody space is, once you go custodial, I feel like more than 50% of your money goes into lawyers and compliance and how do we hold people's money and KYC and all that junk. And we'd rather just build really cool tech and, focus on the experience we provide, actual end users rather than the legal stuff. So it's a good space to be in and we're happy to be here.
Yeah. And then one other thing before I open this up to questions is that, the whole premise of crypto is to be your own bank, hold your own funds and make sure that nobody else can touch them. Now, by having custodial services, yeah, that may be in some way, shape, or form, I'll put this in air quotes, safer, but you're just going back to literally the system that you're trying to leave. You're trying to leave the banking system because, they control all of your funds. You go to a bank and you say, I'm going to withdraw 10 grand. They're going to ask you why. That's none of your business. Crypto is supposed to solve that, but by using custodial services, you're essentially doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You're asking permission to get your money. So by using DEXs, by using apps like Edge and things like that, or even creating your own wallets through like a full node or a light wallet or whatever, controlling your own funds is the most important thing you can do. As long as you write down the seed phrases or private keys and everything like that, save that somewhere safe because there is inherent risk with losing your seed phrase or whatnot. But apps like Edge remove that risk quite a bit just because now you have a login that you can actually use to access your funds and you still control all of your funds.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to be the hybrid experience where people can feel like they're using Web 2, as we're kind of coining this new term Web 3, but really get the benefits of self-custody, of autonomy, of true cryptocurrency. I think that's a key piece. And I'm pretty sure you're speaking to the choir because if there's one thing you lose with a custodial service, the number one thing you absolutely lose immediately is privacy.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure anyone inside of this Discord right now is here because they care about privacy. If you don't care about privacy, well, I don't know, maybe Pirate Chain's done some great marketing, got people that, which is one of the big goals of privacy projects is to get people that don't even care about privacy. That means you've made it. That means you've actually built a product that is good enough for the rest of us. And that's a key thing. Like I know, like while there are criticisms of Signal from a user experience point of view, I can now push to people that don't care a damn about privacy. I have my friends and my family on there, and it's because the experience is good enough, right? And that's what privacy protocols like Pirate Chain have to do is get to that point where you don't even know that you're getting all this great privacy. You're not jumping through any hoops, and we're so close to that now. Like the syncing's a tiny bit slower, but once we solve that, who cares that you're on? Who cares where you're using a public versus a private blockchain? When the private blockchain, it's you get to use it with all its benefits and none of the detriments. But in the meantime, yeah, I'm pretty sure a lot of people here do care about privacy, and you definitively lose that even if using Pirate Chain, right? Even if you are using Pirate Chain, you still lose that privacy when using the asset through a custodial service, because they know everywhere you're sending your money and they know how much you have. All of that is pretty much given up. So self-custody for the win.
Exactly. All right, let's open it up to questions. All right, so anybody got any questions, you can raise your hand. I'll bring you on stage, or you can just type it in chat, and then we'll see, or one of us will see it there. Let's see. Never find the chat area for.
Oh yeah, Discord is always
stuff.
a little bit confusing to me, admittedly, as far as where everything is hiding. Speakers run on its stage. Right.
Hey Cax, is there anybody on socials or anything that have questions?
Hey, I have a question for Paul.
What's up, SO Hussein?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
That's doing well, man.
Well, my question for Paul is, as you described about, I really love your idea and everything and how the app works. You said the passphrase is being encrypted and kept in a back-end server that managed by Edge, right?
That's correct.
I'm not trying to say anything negative, but I have a bit of like a question of worry. Like recently, we have been seeing so much of these hacks, like Microsoft and other big tech companies are getting hacked. Those people, normal users would think like those are the most sophisticated and most secure server in the world. But when I read about it, like they got hacked. So what happens? I'm not saying that you're going to get hacked, but what happens when that back-end server gets hacked or data's deleted? So users won't have any backup, would they?
Got it. So if our backend got hacked, we still have backups. So we do also create backups. And the nice thing about this is a lot of the data is fairly small. It's basically just the encrypted private keys. And so that's a small amount of data, very easy for us to back up. And we do have recovering backups of that all the time. Now, from the viewpoint of what happens if we were actually get hacked, this is a great question. It's one I want to try to thoroughly answer. So number one, all keys are encrypted client-side on the user's device. All right. So that encryption key is a combination of the username and password. And that is strongly hashed. We actually use script hashing to make it memory intensive in order for someone to try to brute force, including us. So it's very expensive to brute force, far more than brute forcing a password manager like a LastPass, which uses SHA-256, which, if anyone knows about anything about SHA-256, is that we have miners that can brute force that at quadrillion times per second. So it's a very poor password hashing algorithm. We built one that's on a memory intensive algorithm, script, and script is a parameterized algorithm, meaning that you can make it stronger and stronger and stronger and take more and more and more memory and become slower and slower to hash over time as computers get faster. And we actually dynamically tune the hashing strength based on your device. So if your phone is stronger, it encrypts all your data with stronger and stronger hashing every time you set your password. So these are the things that we jump through to try to really, really secure that data as tightly as possible. Very minimal people, even in our company, there's only 2 people in our company that have access to the backend that stores encrypted keys. And in essence, if anyone is concerned about the security of the keys, one thing you simply can do, all right, and this is really gives you even better security than your master private key, is simply put in a master private key as your password. Like go and generate one in some random wallet, 12 random words. You put that as your password, and now you have the cryptographic level security that absolutely positively cannot be brute forced. Just like you can't brute force a private key on a blockchain, you wouldn't be able to brute force a password. Now the beauty of it, like if you're saying, well, Paul, okay, well, I go through all that trouble to create 12 random words. Now I'm back to square one, where I've got 12 random words that I have to now, either memorize or write down or put somewhere. And I say, sure, that's true. You've got this darn 12 random words you have to deal with. However, that one set of 12 random words encrypts all the keys inside of Edge, all the keys that could get generated by Edge and all the keys you might have imported into Edge. And one other thing is that if you were to write down those 12 words and someone else were to see it, you're still protected because those aren't the keys. That's the authentication credential. And I mentioned, early in the talk that all of the accounts created in Edge are automatically two-factored. So if someone saw those 12 words that you created as your password and they knew your username, because they'd also have to know your username, they still wouldn't be able to get access to your account from anywhere else around the world. If they tried to, they would have to have your IP addresses. Or you can enable full two-factor and they're blocked out regardless of what IP address they're trying to access your account from. So you bring up a good point, right? That is a weakness in the sense that the password strength is what encrypts the data. We do use strong hashing to make up for that. In a sense. But at the end of the day, if you have a very strong password like a master private key, now you're even more secure than a conventional wallet that just has you write down those 12 words, which are the private key. Hopefully that wasn't too much of a circular response. Let me know if you have any questions in that regard, because this is one of the most important questions to ask, which is the key management security within a platform you're using.
Thanks for your answer. I mean, I guess you explained almost everything. Now, I have another, I'm very paranoid about things. I mean, I try to know, like I ask questions or do things always like mumbling in different things that I know of or I care about. So one of the thing, like I want to present you a scenario and like, is that if it's okay with you?
Absolutely, go right ahead.
All right. For example, I set up my password and everything. I have even I have a multi-factor authentication like 2FA after creating the seed and the account on my app. Now I lost the phone. You say you have a backup in your Edge server. I didn't take any backup. I didn't write down anything on my end. Like I'm a dumb user. Okay. What happens if your server goes offline and when I want to retrieve the funds in a different device using the same username, password, and 2FA, but the Edge server is down?
All right. So the case where you do both at the exact same time, which is Edge server is down and you switch devices, then the keys would not be available. Like, be straight up honest with it. If Edge servers were to absolutely implode and everything get deleted, which would really require us to maliciously do that because it costs so little to run servers that hold very small amount of data. So these are not huge infrastructure that we have to run to hold encrypted private keys. It's a very tiny infrastructure. So we would have to take it.
You already answered. You already answered, and I'm satisfied with the answer.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. You lose your phone at the same time as Edge servers go offline. There's no recovery for the keys. So you are a backup of Edge. Edge is a backup of you.
Okay. Now my next question. So would you add a feature in your app so the user can have an encrypted backup of their hashed private key or the seed phrase in like Google Drive or Dropbox?
Got it. So we don't have that feature. It's not one that we are looking to offer. Number one, it does put Google and Dropbox, the security within those platforms kind of in question. However, the thing you can do, and we do have some people that are very paranoid and will do this, is after you create all the wallets that you want to use and support, you simply can log into a different device, say an old phone that you just don't use anymore, log into that device and all the keys will get downloaded into it. Then you can just throw that phone into a sock drawer or into a safe. And that becomes your backup because all the keys are sitting on that other device as well. So that is one option.
Or if you're paranoid like me, you just write down all the damn private keys yourself.
Yeah, that can be.
I'm talking about I'm dumb user.
Yeah,
it's pretty tedious to go and take down all the private keys, everything you've imported and created, and so simply having a second phone, or nowadays we don't have a desktop app, but you can actually do this on any of the new M1 Macs. So the new M1 Macs can run full iOS apps. So if anyone happens to be on that platform, you can install Edge on your laptop or Mac and log in, and it will sync all your private keys onto that device. So that's another backup. Your laptop can effectively be an encrypted backup for your phone. And then because Edge is a platform, for those interested, you can literally build a simple backup app that can also run on your computer. It just needs a front end. You can use their SDK, build a simple app that doesn't have, and that can work on Linux, it can work on Windows, blah, blah, blah. And you could log in and boom, all your private keys show up inside of that device. Since it is a cross-platform SDK. So that's obviously not outside of the scope of a consumer, right now. That's something that has to get built. It's something we are looking at building. We are looking at building a full desktop app, but it's not out yet. And I don't know that I can promise when that would be out. But for now, another device is the simplest way versus writing down every single private key.
All right, thank you very much. So that might is similar as like writing it down in a notebook or like having a metal offline backup or something. Yeah, that's perfectly makes sense. I mean, I was just wondering, and those questions some of the users might think. So thanks for your answer. I'm gonna say bye-bye now.
I'll expand a little bit on that question. So realize that as soon as you open up Edge and show your private key, that private key is inherently now less secure than it was before you saw it. If your device happened to have a screen grabber, it could see that private key. If where you write it down is accessible to other people, right? Someone breaks into your home or you put it in your office somewhere, it becomes immediately less secure as soon as you can see the private key. So that's one of the models Edge takes, is whatever you can see on screen, whatever you have to write down is not so sensitive that if someone else sees it, your money's gone. That's a key importance. So the nice thing about using an old phone versus trying to write down all the different keys, use an old phone, your backup is in there, is that if someone finds that phone, they don't necessarily get into your keys either, because they still have to be able to unlock and decrypt the keys on that device. That additional layer of protection is key. It's somewhat like a mini hardware wallet, a simplified hardware wallet that you're just shoving into a sock drawer. So that, I think, is an important distinction between the kind of security model that Edge promotes versus what you traditionally see and people have gotten used to. People have gotten used to writing down their key, and they think that that's the most secure thing. But in many ways, that compromises the security of a platform that does not show you the key. It allows you to see it, but doesn't show it to you and protects you from that risk.
That's actually a feature that actually the way you described it, I like it. So what happens like when I create an account the first time and there is an encrypted seed phrase and everything? Can I take a backup of that file to a different computer or an offline computer and use it with my own account in a different device? So like in the scenario, like your server is down, I can just simply transfer the file from one phone, log in with my app in another phone, and use the backup file.
So it's multiple files, really. The way it's laid out on a phone, it's a whole bunch of files. We don't have a way of exporting it from one device and importing it into another device other than through our infrastructure. So if you already had it on the device, then yes, you can log in. You can log into Edge without having any access to our servers once you've logged in at least once. But you're right, there's no way to transfer it in an offline manner, going from one device with Edge to another device with Edge. Not currently. Now you can simply take out the private keys one by one and import them back into Edge one by one, but not the entire encrypted bundle.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any additional questions? I know if you have more SO same, let's have somebody else take a turn first.
Oh, no. I don't have any more questions. That was the last one for
Great
sure.
question. Thanks for asking that. That's always one that people should really deep dive into on any platform they use. So thank you for asking that one.
All right, Cax, anything on socials or anything? Because if not, I actually have a question myself. Where is? There we go. Okay. With Edge Wallet C trays, I can restore my R into Edge Wallet too. So can you import a private key?
Absolutely, you can import a private key. So yeah, you simply go through the process of adding a wallet, but instead of choosing create, you choose import. And if you have a private key that has multiple assets on it, so say you were using, what's one that's fairly standard, Coinomi or Exodus or Jax, you can take that, you can go through the create wallet flow in Edge, choose all the assets that you had inside one of those other wallets. And instead of clicking create, click import. And as long as if the derivations, the way those wallets derive the private and public keys is standardized, and we try to stick to all those standards, then a bunch of different wallets will get created using that one imported master private key for one wallet for each of one of the assets. So that can be done.
Question from YouTube. I can probably answer this. It says, is it safe to store bigger amounts of R in Edge Wallet? So my recommendation, as always, is to use a full node for like your own personal full node for large amounts of R. But in the case of Edge Wallet, with all the security features built in and the fact that it's non-custodial and everything like that, I would say yes, it is safe to store larger amounts of R in Edge.
So I'll be one that doesn't run a full node in general. I'm not a full node runner. I don't discourage it. I definitely encourage people for running full nodes because the network needs it. One thing I will say though is, on a security level, I don't know how the full nodes are architected for Pirate Chain because different platforms architect their full nodes a little bit differently. But full nodes, generally speaking, are devices that have two-way access to the internet, meaning that say you ran a full node on like your computer at home, that full node, generally speaking, has to go outbound into the internet to be able to talk to another node. But it usually needs to have an inbound connection, meaning people can connect to your node, right? Now, as soon as you open up ports from the outside world to connect into your node, that is generally speaking considered it's not a security flaw, but it's another attack vector in security. And
yeah, from my understanding, and Cax, you probably know this better than I do, but basically everything is fully encrypted, including I'm pretty sure your IP address, the amount sent and received, your address, everything like that. So there's nothing actually visible or nothing that's unencrypted that leaves or comes in. So I'm not sure if that has anything to do with what you just mentioned.
Yeah, definitely correct us if we're wrong. I think the communication channel for sure, like everything is encrypted, so you're not necessarily exposing any information. It's just simply that you're opening up an entry into your castle. And in that, if you're because full nodes don't need to have private keys, right? Full nodes are kind of implementing the consensus layer. But for them to actually hold the private keys means you're putting a private key in a fully internet accessible device. And that's one that has incoming connections. That's like putting a private key on a server. So it's one thing to have a private key on your client-side device, like your laptop, your phone, or whatnot. It's different to put a private key on a server because the server is taking incoming connections, which opens it up to more attacks than one that's behind a firewall. And your phone, you can consider to be always behind a firewall. It generally speaking, doesn't take incoming. It doesn't have an incoming connection server. So there's a bit of a risk there. Now, if you run your own full node, and you run some type of software that connects to it from your client-side device, such as your laptop or your phone, connects to that full node to then communicate and create and sign transactions, then you've kind of got the best of both worlds. That's for the people, the power user that can set all of that up. Then you've got both the security of your private key in a what I call not so internet accessible computer, but then all of the validation and what I call like protocol level security from running your own node.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess this will be the last question because we're pretty much almost just about out of time. But you mentioned that the more powerful your phone is, the better the encryption, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
Stronger.
So say, for example, I create an Edge wallet on my current phone. Say it's a Galaxy S20 Plus, right? Now, if I were to, say, upgrade my phone in the future, does it redo the encryption, or is the encryption set to what my old phone was?
So currently, the only way the encryption gets upgraded is if you change your password, even if you change it to the same password. We want to make that more automatic in the future, where all you have to do is just simply log in with your password. And when you do that, we're able to rehash all the data. Thing is that we can't actually change the encryption unless the client-side app sees the password, because it never stores the password in the clear. We never see passwords. The client-side app doesn't see them. So until you enter the password again, we can't re-encrypt all the data. So just choose change password, change it to the same password is entirely fine. You'll get the stronger hashing on the faster phones.
Cool. And how weak would that encryption be if I had a 20-year-old Nokia?
Well, it wouldn't even run. Let's just say that one. Wouldn't run at all. Yeah, at this point, I think, we launched the algo for all of this 2014 at the time what iPhone 4 was out. That's pretty much the weakest thing, which now you can't even run the app on an iPhone 4. I don't know if any apps will run an iPhone 4. So, let's call minimum requirement at least like a 10, iPhone 10. Android world, what would that be?
Maybe like an S7?
S7, probably the slowest kind of device, hopefully an S8. Especially with these privacy protocols, you kind of do need beefier devices, right? The encryption that's going on in there is no lightweight amount of cryptography. So let's call it like maybe S8, S9 level that you'd want to have before trying to use these protocols on a regular.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, actually, majority of the reason why we can't be listed on any existing hardware wallet, just because of the power requirements for memory and processing. Yeah. So that's why we're building our own.
Yeah, it's tough. A lot of them are very, very lightweight microcontrollers. They don't really do much in there. But maybe if you guys are able to build one, that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, we're actually almost finished with it too. So
cool. All right.
All right. Well, I don't see any more questions, and even actually somebody just asked the question on YouTube that we just answered as far as how old of a phone can you use for Edge. So
got it.
We already answered that. So
there you go. Perfect. Good question.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on and for getting Pirate Chain onto Edge, and for all the developers on your side and our side for making that happen. It's actually an amazing experience to see and witness. So appreciate all of your time, and hopefully we'll speak again sometime soon.
No, absolutely. Thanks a lot for your team and your community support as well. Definitely fire off any questions you might have about the integrations. You can reach us edge.app pretty simply there. That's how you can download the app or get in contact with us on the various channels. We've got a Discord and Telegram as well. Not Telegram, sorry, Discord and Twitter. And talk to everyone soon.
Yeah, if you can actually provide those links for the various communication methods for Edge in chat or somewhere, we'll get those posted as well.
Sure, we'll definitely do.
Cool. All right, so for everybody else, thank you so much for coming. We do have another announcement we're going to make. We're going to make it tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that. So aside from that, thank you all for coming. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll catch you all next time.
Okay, cheers.
There once was a ship that put to sea, and the name of the ship was privacy. The winds blew hard and fear dipped down below me, crypto boys blow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto golden rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. She'd not been but 2 years from shore when her value it began to soar. The captain called all hands and swore he'd take those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto Before the boat had hit the water, bankers came but never corner. All in sync, we hidden for them, then they began to know. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. No chain was cut, no block was freed, and the captain's mind was not on greed, but he belonged to the pirates' creed and took those bankers in tow. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. For fear days to be no more, the crypto sank, then rose once more. Coins were lost, yet we do endure, and still that system did go. Soon may the pirate chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go. As far as I've heard, the fight's still on, the chain's not cut and the block's not gone. We pirates make our regular call, we're with the captain, the crew and all. Chain come to bring us crypto, gold and rum. One day when the system is done, we'll take our treasure and go.